guys, Kirsten here. I just thought I'd share with you this magnolia painting today and just go through what I'm doing here. So I'm just grabbing a pure mixture of burnt umber and filling in the stem. And then I'm going to take some yellow ochre in with that burnt umber, and I'm going to do the back sides of these leaves, as magnolias usually have a brown underside to their leaves. So I'm just filling in all of the backs of my sketch and this bud up here. And then I'm grabbing a pure mixture of yellow ochre and I'm just filling that into the stamen. After that, I'm grabbing some sap green with a little bit of that brown just to make it an earthy green color, and I'm filling in the top side of the leaves. And a little bit on that bud there too. Now I'm grabbing an ultramarine and burnt sienna, and I'm kind of mixing that with the green I had, adding a little bit of Payne's gray, just making a really muddy mixture of gray here. And I'm just laying down a very thin mixture on my first flower, and I like to pat that dry after. Now I'm just blending out the gray that I laid down. I like to lay down a gray color sort of towards the insides of the leaves where the shadows would naturally be, or if you have a reference photo, you can just use that to kind of see where the shadows would be and place the color accordingly. I'm just using one brush to lay down that gray color and another one to blend out behind it while it's still wet. And I just kind of go around the entire leaf with this, the entire magnolia with this technique until I have all my shadows filled in. You'll see me use a paper towel throughout too, because if I lay down too much color, all I do is I just grab that paper towel and pick it back up, and we're good to go. So I'm just going to continue to do that on the remainder of the magnolia flowers for my first pass at these petals. So I'm going to add a little bit of brown to the top sides of these leaves as well, and I'm just using a burnt umber to do that with a little bit of yellow ochre, and I'm just placing that wherever I feel is right, a really watery mixture on the top side of the leaves, and then I just use my blending brush to blend it where I'd like it. And then for my second pass at the green on these leaves, I'm using a very dark mixture of sap green and perylene green, and I'm just kind of again placing that wherever feels right and going behind it with my blending brush and blending it out. So it's a pretty thick mixture of paint and water, about 50-50 maybe, and I just place that down, and then I actually use that blending brush to kind of push the paint where I want it and get the color that I want. Another thing about this too is that you want to make sure that you leave some of that green showing to poke through on the lighter colors we had before, and this will just add a lot of dimension to your leaves and make it look like, you know, there's some depth to them and that they have a bunch of different colors coming through, which is very true to magnolia leaves. I'm also adding some of that mixture on the back side of the leaves where it feels right, just to add some depth there. And then I'm going through with my gray mixture, and I'm going kind of on the outside of the petals this time on the magnolia, and I'm laying color down, and then I'm actually going in behind it and just smoothing it out, but keeping it right at that base. So this just adds a little bit of shadow to the ends of the petals and kind of gives our eyes something to look at when we're thinking about where the petal ends on a white flower and where the page begins. I like to kind of add that border sometimes just to kind of show and really bring it to life. And then I'm just going in with another pass at these petals, and I'm just using that same mixture, maybe a little bit more paint this time, to just really deepen up those shadows and make the petals look like they're popping and make some look like they're tucked behind one another. So just use your judgment on this. You know, if there's a petal tucked behind another petal, it should be in shadow, and the petals on top should be a little bit lighter. The next thing I'm doing is the stamen here, and I just added kind of a darker dot to the middle just to show where all of the sort of stamen would meet. And then I'm just adding lines, and to do this I'm using burnt umber and yellow ochre and just drawing those lines up and then blending them out after. And then for the leaves again, I'm doing one final pass at those, and I'm just deepening the dark color even further by just adding a bit more of the same mixture as before. You just have to sort of get your layers down sometimes in order to build the dimension and the depth of color that you want. Here is just going with some final touches, just a little bit more gray here, and then I'm doing another layer of the same color on the stamen just at the base and kind of in between the lines, just making them a bit more blended out. And there's the final product of the magnolias I painted. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please let me know what you'd like to see from me next, as always, and I'll see you in my next video.